The debate over immigration enforcement is now back in the spotlight today down at the Indiana State House. Lawmakers on a Senate committee heard testimony and made changes to a bill that lawmakers in the House already passed. Emily Longnecker is here to explain the question that's at the heart of this contentious debate. Emily?
The bill is House Bill 1393. Here's where it stands with the changes. There are two scenarios. A police officer arrests someone on a misdemeanor or felony and takes them to jail, or a police officer gives someone a summons to appear in court. In both cases, the jail staff and sheriff, if they had probable cause to believe that that person was here illegally, would be required to contact ICE. ICE would take it from there. The debate today, how is probable cause determined? The bill's author, Republican State Representative Garrett Boscom, characterizes the bill as standardizing a process one county sheriffs have testified they're already doing. Boscom agrees.
In many communities, this is already happening. Once we notify ICE, then it's on ICE to make whatever determination that they make.
But what about before that? What goes into a sheriff or jail staff determining probable cause that someone could be undocumented after they've been arrested or charged? Boscom says that comes from questioning during the intake process. Many who testified said they believed the bill would lead to racial profiling. That assertion led to its own debate.
I do not want to be profiled. Neither does my mother. Neither does my sister, teachers, and everybody else. It does increase it. Unfortunately, we live in a red state where there are officers, and unfortunately, they are going to race. And I'm sorry, but if it happens, I mean, I hope you feel okay with that.
It is illegal. And it cannot happen, should never happen, and if it does happen, the officer will not be an officer very long.
Some said it's not if it will happen, but when.
This bill will undoubtedly foster racial profiling. The standard of probable cause is most troublesome and inherently subjective and will lead to judgments based on appearance, language, proficiency, or accent.
What do you want the standard to be? You don't like probable cause, so what should it be?
Senator, I would leave that up to you and the members of the committee.
Only two groups testified they were neutral on the bill, the Indiana Public Defenders Council and the Indiana Sheriff's Association.
We're going to remain neutral on this and open to conversations about this process and what it looks like, because as we all know, this continues to change.
And those changes could come when the bill gets before the full Senate. The bill passed out of committee today by a vote of 5-3. Two Democrats voted against it, along with a Republican state senator, Sue Glick, who said that she thought that this was already happening in jails, contacting of ICE. She said the bill was well-intentioned, but she called it unnecessary. At the Indiana State House, Emily Longnecker, 13 News.
And also at the State House today, Black faith leaders are coming together calling for change when it comes to federal funding here in Indiana. Karen Campbell shares their concerns and what they now want from our lawmakers.
On Tuesday, faith leaders with the Black Church Coalition rallied at the State House, urging the General Assembly to address the federal and state funding cuts they say are hurting Hoosiers.
We want our politicians to be all in for our state and not just for the wealthy few.
Members are also concerned about a lack of federal funding and the impact on mental health.
History will be remembered by what we do today. You have the power to ensure Indiana just doesn't put a Band-Aid on mental health, but truly builds a system that prevents tragedy and supports family before it's too late.
State Senator Andrea Hunley says a bill to help support child care had backing from the BCC, but failed to get a hearing.
It would have allowed Marion County to look at some possible taxing structures so that we could look at fully funding pre-K across the county.
Members say they will continue to push for equity for all Hoosiers. At the State House, Karen Campbell, 13 News.
And we want to show you some really cool pictures. This is live look right now in the Gulf off of Florida. Just moments ago, the SpaceX capsule carrying two astronauts, the pair that was stranded in space for nearly 300 days, splashed down into the Gulf. And you're taking a live look at the operation right now. We've been watching from above as boats have rushed to this capsule here as it's floating in the water there. Butch Williams and Suni Wilmore will finally be welcomed home after being stranded on the the International Space Station for months. The crews are going to be receiving some medical exams once they're unloaded from this capsule. That's standard procedure, and then they will have more in-depth testing when they travel from Florida back home to Houston. But that's a very standard step for any astronauts following along a mission in space. But we have just been captivated watching these images here as we watch live. I mean, it's just something you don't see every day, and we're just marveling at the fact of how accurate the location. They were able to pinpoint that and to have those rescuers and the boats there ready to retrieve these astronauts. There were 4 things that looked like, I don't know if they're officially called a parachute, but it sure looked like a parachute that helped kind of slow the entry down as it hit the water. And those were floating in the water when we really had a big look back. But presumably we're going to be seeing these astronauts get out of that capsule, get in those boats and go back. And it's just amazing to see. What a marvel.
You said it. It is mind-blowing how quickly they got there and with such accuracy to the splashdown.
Yes.
Amazing.
And I'm so glad they had clear weather, that wasn't a factor for that trip home. After everything that they've been through, they deserve blue skies and sunny.
And that was the welcome home for sure. Hey, we had that today too, and warm. 70s this afternoon. We've been as warm as 76 in Indianapolis, 75 right now. Brown County 73, Bunker Hill 72. We'll stay in the 70s the next couple of hours. No weather issues this evening, so get out and enjoy. Weather issue tomorrow, the threat of severe weather from about 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon through about midnight. We are under the threat of severe storms. Those threats, the low threats, include tornadoes, large hail, and flooding. Greatest risk with this broken line of storms that will be tracking the risk of winds that may be in excess of 60 miles per hour. It'll be a dry start to our Wednesday, dry through lunchtime. As I mentioned, 3-4 o'clock, expect the initiation of that line of storms out to our west. It will move into western Indiana around 5 p.m., into the central part of the state by 7 p.m., into the eastern part of the state by 9 o'clock. We have upgraded tomorrow to a weather impact alert day, just to give you a little time to prepare. More on that in a few minutes.
Thank you, Angela. New tonight, more teenage students in Morgan County are now coming forward, and they're accusing a former teacher of sexual misconduct with a minor. Ashton Hackman is in Morgan County to explain why the prosecutors are now looking to bring even more charges against this woman.
31-year-old Brittany Fortenberry has been held here at the Morgan County Jail since her arrest last month on charges of sexual misconduct with a minor. Since then, 5 new victims have come forward with additional allegations.
Prosecutors have asked to file up to 24 additional criminal charges against her, including 10 counts of child molesting, sexual misconduct with a minor, and 13 other charges for disseminating material harmful to minors and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Court documents say all of the teens reported Fortenberry would send them nude and explicit photos and videos on Snapchat and force them to have group sex at her Martinsville home. A child victim advocate says it's important for parents to feel comfortable having difficult conversations with their children.
And what we just encourage is that parents kind of ask that open-ended question and they give their children a chance to speak, and then they praise their courage at that time rather than asking them questions about what they did or why they didn't tell. The last thing that we want is a child to feel blame or shame as a result of making a disclosure.
We reached out to the Morgan County Prosecutor's Office to see when these formal charges will be filed. We have not yet heard back. In Morgan County, Ashton Hackman, 13 News.
Tonight, a mother is facing charges after an altercation on a Warren Township school bus. Latia Hines is charged with battery and criminal trespass, among other charges, after she allegedly boarded a school bus and then got into a fight with a 14-year-old student on board. According to the court documents, she boarded the bus with her son and daughter, all to confront a teen before a fight broke out. The Marion County prosecutor says the responsibility is on the adults to safely settle issues instead of resorting to violence.
Adults have to set a better example, and we need to do better for our kids, and what is alleged, certainly to us, is a situation that could have been handled way differently and could have produced a way better outcome for everybody involved if people just took a second, took a step back and thought, okay, how can we make things better?
The mother of the student injured says his nose was fractured and one of his eyes injured in the dispute.